Yes guys, welcome back to this channel. Today I'm excited to teach you how to consume a RESTful API. So previously I've already shown you or made a tutorial to create a RESTful API. So this tutorial will teach you how to consume a RESTful API. So the goal is to do this within 20 to 30 minutes, so really fast, but try to make you understand. So I have this website. It lets you test your front end against a real API. It has a fake data, real response, and always on. So for this API, we're going to be trying to get a list of users, and this right here is the response that you're going to get. This list of users, and we're also going to create a user. So we're going to post a user. So we're going to do those two, and then we're going to have this response here. So it's just the name, the job, and the ID for the create. But let's start with the get without wasting much of your time. Let's start with the get. So for this tutorial, you will need a Visual Studio. I'm using Visual Studio 2022. You could use 2019, but for me, if you want to get exactly the same results, exactly the same intelligence and everything I'm getting in 2022 that we're going to be using, and I'm also going to be using unit test. So that's a unit test framework from in .NET that you could use as well. I also assume that you understand a little bit about C#, and we could go from there. So it's basically, I'm teaching you how to consume RESTful API, but at the same time I'll teach you a little bit about unit testing as well. So let's get started so that we are on track. Alright, so I already created this project, RESTful API test demo. I have added two folders, models folder and a services folder, and then a unit test class project. This is just the one that the default one that came with the project. So just in case you don't know how to create a test project, so if you right click on the solution, right, you're going to see add right here. You're going to see new project. If you do that and you type come here, just type unit. So you will see unit test right here, unit test right here. So you could choose the first one, or you could choose. So this is the .NET Core one, the newest one, and unit test, and then there's the .NET Framework one here. Where is that? Unit test framework, unit test framework right here. Alright. Okay. So that's that. I've already created it, so I don't need this. So I'm going to cancel. Alright. So let's start. So your API usually. Before you start creating your API, you have to try to make sure you have your URL, API URL. Okay, this is more like the www.weatherservice.com/get weather or get zip code, something like that, right? So you need to know that first of all, okay? And then you need to have in mind which of the services you're going to consume. In this case, we're consuming the get user list, and we're going to create users. So those are the two things. Well, some APIs have something called API key, and then you need to, if they have API key, this is like a security, like their own security keys, right? So if you have API key, you have to also know about that. Alright, but this one we're going to use to be testing doesn't have API key, so it just has that. So okay, let's go ahead. So this is a unit test. We are going to write there, consume the API, and then we're going to test it here using the unit test. So let's go ahead and add a class in the service layer, because this is a RESTful service, right? So RESTful API is like a RESTful service. So let's put it in service layer. So I'm going to add a new class. We're going to call it user service, because we're going to be getting a list of users. User service. That's good enough. We're going to make this one a public class. Okay. And at this point, I want to I want to go in and get the URL. But for the URL, we're gonna have like the two. So there's something called base URL. Understand? There's something called base URL. The base URL is the first part of URL, the actual HTTP //google.com. That's the base, right? Then you're gonna have /API/ GetUsers, something like that. That's for example, right? But in this case, base URL is a string. In this case, it's I'm gonna show you. Let me go back to the base URL. So I'm going to go back to the website just to show the base URL. So this is the base URL right here. I'm going to copy the base URL, and then this is the endpoint. See the endpoint, the request endpoint, API/users. They're adding the page number here. I'm going to copy exactly that. Use that when I'm ready to use it. So let's go. The base URL is this one here. Okay, so that's that. The next thing that we need to perform this operation of consuming the API is to use HttpClient. This is what talks to the API to actually either get or post our request over. So we need that as well. So HttpClient. Okay, so I don't want to instantiate it right here. Let's try to make it an instantiated constructor. So I'm going to add a constructor. So if you type CTOR and hit your tab twice, it's going to generate a constructor for you. And then this is where I want to, I'll just call this one client. Let's call it client. This is where I want to instantiate this guy. Alright, so we'll get that now. So now that we have this, now let's go ahead and make the first call. The first call is to get a list of users from that API. Okay, so we're going to do public async. I'm doing async because the HttpClient returns asynchronous methods, right? So you have to do async. If the API is returning asynchronous method, you have to do async. In here, we're supposed to have a model users like that. I have not created this model, but I'm going to create it very soon. So get users. Okay. And then close. Now this is complaining because you haven't created that. Why do we need this model? Why do we need users here? Because this is going to return, this get users is going to return users as response back to us. I mean, we're going to map the response from the API into users that we're going to create. So let me show you why that is. So look at get users, right? It returns this information here, but this information here is currently in JSON format, right? This is a JSON format. When we communicate in C#, we can read JSON format, but it's going to be in the form of a string. No, we don't want it to be in the form of a JSON string. We want the final result when we are testing to be in object format. So because of that, we need to create a model that will represent the JSON, right? So what I do is I try to, you could create a model and then type out all this information and properties, and all of that, but there's an easier way to do this. I'm going to show you a trick right now. Okay, I'll show you this trick. Copy it. Now I'm going to show you a trick to generate in Visual Studio to generate a class and its properties from a JSON. So we're going to generate directly from this place right here. So let's add a new model, and you already know what it is going to be. It's going to just be user, right? Because I have that there. So we generate that. Let's make this public. Right. So once you generate this, if you want to use this special trick that I have, just delete this one first for now. Okay. Now you have only just the namespace. Okay, that's fine. Leave your cursor in the middle there and go to edit. we go to paste special. Look at this, paste special, and then paste JSON as class. Right, now I copied that JSON there and I paste it as a class here. So all we need to do now is just name this back to user, and that's it. And I like to make sure that this is for me. I'll change that to that array to a list. Just I like to work with lists method. Okay, so everything is ready. Everything is ready to go now. Now let's go back to our. This is user. Not users. We'll come here. We'll bring in a namespace. Okay, so now we are ready. Okay, now we have to make an instance of the user and then return the user. That's okay, return user. Okay, so the first thing that we do now, we need to start using the client. We need to start using the client. We need to start instantiating this client with the base URL. We need to add the base URL to the client, and then add the endpoint to the client, and then headers and all of that. I promise you this is going to be like 6 lines of code, 7 lines of code, 7 about that, and then you'll be ready to. So this base URL, base address equals to new URL, new URI, and then we're going to pass in the base URL. Okay, that's the first line. Okay, and just let's count for me. First line, I said it's going to be 6 or 7 lines, and we're done. Okay, next line is we're going to add headers. So I'm just going to show you that you can add headers, because some APIs will require you to add headers. This doesn't necessarily require it, but I'm going to add a header. So default headers, right? To add. So if you have an API that needs to pass headers, this is how you're going to pass it. It has different types of headers you can pass. This is just the one I'm using. As you can see, the add headers allows you to add a string name of the header and then the value of the header. So in this case, I'm going to do accept. Right? Accept header. Accept is the name of the header, and then application.json is the application/JSON is what we expected to accept. So that's the header. All right. Great. Now we need the endpoints. So the endpoint is this right here. I'll show you. The endpoint is this rest of these guys here. This is the endpoint. So page equals to 2. So everything now is going to be this website.in/API/users query string parameter page equals to 2. That's going to be the full endpoints, right? The full URL for this API we're testing there. Okay, for some reason this is happens to be. So we know what it is. API/users. And then there's a query string parameter question mark page equals to 2. Right, that was what it is. Alright, we're good to go. So we're not going to delete this guy here, so it's clean and nice. So this is 3 lines now, 1, 2, 3 now, okay? So let's go. The next thing now is to actually make a call. To make the call, because this is an async call, we need to put in a wait. It's already telling us what to do. So that's exactly what I'm trying to do right there. Okay. So at the endpoint is being passed. Remember, this base URL is already being passed as here in the client. It's already in the client right now. It's initialized to the client. So all we needed to pass now is, look at it. It says request URI. If you look at the intelligence, it's looking for request URI, and this is request URI. So pass that. But we need to assign it to something to hold this for us. So I'm going to assign it into HTTP response message. So we're going to do HTTP response equal to that. Alright, so now we got everything now. This is now, we've been able to make the call right now, it's sitting in this response, but this now is not, like we need to get the content out of this response, okay? But before we do that, let's just check if, like this, let's put a guard here. So there's something called HTTP ensure status code is successful. So ensure success status code means it's going to, if this is successful, it will come to this line and then start executing the next line. If this is false, if this fails, if it's not successful, it will break right here. It will break out from this point. The rest of the code will not execute, okay? So that's what we ensure that is. So now we need to map the results we're going to get from here to our user model, to this user model here, all right? But that is easy because this HTTP response has a way to read a string, to read async string, you know, and then we're going to pass it to this user. So let's see how that is done. So I'm going to map it to the user, like I said, it's equals to HTTP. Now we're looking for the content of this guy, the content, right? And then we're going to read as async. Okay. And then I want to map our class. That's it. That's all it is. Okay. Why am I getting that error? Why is there an error? Okay, I think it's looking for, because see this, whenever you have this async, see how we got get async, you need to put await async. Now we need to put await as well. So that's it. That's it. That's it. So how many lines? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 lines. That's it. That's all we need. That's really all we need. Okay. So now that we have this, now make sure. Let me let you pause it a little bit and copy along or type along. Alright, just pause it here if you're not up to this point, just pause it. Alright. Okay. So let's continue. Alright. So I'm gonna write a unit test now to test that. To test whatever we had. Remember how you added a unit test project? Okay. When you added a unit test, it's always going to have this guy here. It's always going to have it. This unit test 1 is going to, by default, it's always there. So I'm just going to use that, and I'm not going to do anything else. And I'm going to say it's a test class, it's a test method, sorry. You have to decorate it like that for your test method. And then just a public void test. And that's all we get. Users. Everything goes according to plan, this will work. So we need to make an instance of this class. So that way we get it over there. So just make a new instance of that class like this. Okay. So press Control and hold Control, then I hit the dot. Control dot to give it this, and then you can bring a namespace. Okay. And then once we do that, we just need to have access to. I'm going to say results is equal to the users, this user that we just did, and then get users. So you see it's already going to get the users for us, right? This, and then it gets the user class. If you get this user class here, this user method. Okay. Alright. So the next thing now is I want to actually check if it's okay. I mean, let's just assert. I'm just going to assert that this is not null. Right? This one is not null. So basically, what are we doing here? So this is how unit test. You're making the action, the call, and then the call will give you a result, and then you assert. So this is where it tested. This is the actual test. Assert, but it's not null. This result will come in here. If it is null, this will fail. But if it is not null, this will pass. So this is how we write a unit test. Actually, I want to check the count actually. So let's check count. So this is this too, but let's just check the count instead. User list. Oops. I'm gonna delete that. Let's check the data, because the data is the one that has the list of users. Let's check the data with count. That is the one that I want to check. Okay. User list. Okay, there's something here that we need to do. So because it's async, right? Because this method is async, the result has not evaluated yet. So for you to force it to evaluate, just do .result. It's going to force it to evaluate, then you can have the data with count. So we are saying if user list data.count is greater than 0. So if we have anything in the list, in the data greater than 0, that means it's true. Otherwise, don't do anything. And then just check if this is true. Okay. So I'm going to run this guy. Now I'm going to give you a chance to copy along. I'm going to give you a chance to copy along. So right now, alright, let's go ahead and hit the run test button. So if you right click inside the method, inside this method, right click it, and then you can see debug, right? Hit debug right here. It's gonna, now we're in test mode. Now we're going to start testing this method to make sure that we're actually getting those users back. Okay, so we're in here, and then we could just hit this middle one, the middle two, we keep going. So this is the place that makes the call, right? This is where we're going to know if it's successful or not. Okay, so you see status code 200 down here means it's successful. Using phrase is okay, that means that's successful. And the next line is going to mark that guy. And then once you mark it, now you can inspect this, which means everything is correct. Look at the data has count of 6 count, and if you open one of them, you're going to see that it has everything you need. It has the email, the first name, the ID, the last name. So everything is working fine. So this is an example of how you can consume an API. So this is the get. We're going to do the post next. So if you're having an exception here, an error here, right here, if you're having an exception, if you do this and you have an exception, don't forget. So I'm just trying to remind you here, don't forget to import this extension. This could be the reason why. Go to your NuGet packages. So if you come onto here on your project, if you right click like that, you're going to see something here, add NuGet, manage NuGet packages. Right now it's running, so you're not going to see it. So don't forget about that. I just want to remind you. That's why I put a comment right there. Okay. So we're here. The data.count is greater than 0, so that's going to be, it's going to pass. So this test pass, right? If it passes, you're going to see a green check mark like that. If it fails, you're going to see an X, red X like this. So this test pass. So we're good, right? So I will give you let's close this guy. I'll give you some time to type this guy, and we're going to start again with the post to create a new user. Alright, so if you're ready, let us go and create the post, right? Create a new user. So that one's going to be post. So let's go back to the website and see what that means. So we just implemented the get list of users, and we got these ones here, this result back. Okay, what's about the create? Create is a post, HTTP version of post. So what does that entail? So the response this time is different. So we should be getting this response, right? This one right here, back. So I'm going to copy that guy. We're just going to do exactly what we did last time. Just to actually that's fine, I don't care. This time around, let's just create a class of its own. We're just going to give it a name and job, that's all, and then the endpoint is just API/users now, right? API/users. Okay. So let's go and start that. Okay. So the first thing we need to do is to create a new class that will mimic the response. So if you look at this now, there's a response here. It has a name and a job. We're going to post this name and the job to the API, and it's going to, okay, I'm sorry, this is where we're going to post the request. Sorry, we're going to post a request. So we need to make a request like this and a response like this. Okay, so there are two things we need to do: a request like this and a response like this. So let's go ahead and make that right now. This will require a request and a response. So I'm going to just call it user request like that. Okay. Okay, and that should be public. Alright, I'm going to do prop. Hit your tab twice, and maybe is that the name is a string, right? So I'm going to do string name, okay. And then there's also a job like that. Job. Okay. So while we're here, let's just add the other one, the user response as well. So for the posting, right, you have to send something. You have to post an object, or so basically you're trying to create something, so you have to post what you're creating over to the API. User response like that. Okay. And some of it is the same as this guy. So let's do that. Actually, I don't know if this is sensitive anyways. Let me just make sure that it shouldn't be, but I'm just going to leave it the way it is. Okay, so we still have two more of these guys. I think there is one, there's ID. So there is the ID right there, ID. So I'm going to bring the ID over as well, and then we created it as well. Alright, so this, oh no, I'm sorry, this shouldn't be in here, this should be in the response. So let's look at it again one more time. So user response is this, and user request is this. So let's look at it one more time. The request is this. So you're going to build a request and you're going to post this request over. If you look at the first one we did was the get list. There is nothing here in the request body, in the request. So that's why we didn't pass a request. But when you're doing a post, it needs an object being passed here, name and job as an object being passed along with the request. So that's why we did this. We're creating this guy, and then we're also creating this guy as well as a response. Well, when we did it for the list, we only created this one here as a response, right, class. So I hope you understand that. I hope it's not too confusing about that. All right. So okay, now we are ready. We created those two objects, this request and the response. So now we're ready to create the post, the HTTP post. And let's go ahead and do the same thing. It's going to be public, just same thing, async. There are going to be tags as well. This time around, of course, we're expected to return the user response. So I'm going to do the user response here. Alright. And then we're expecting, why is it showing like that? Anyway, we're expecting to get the user request here, and just call it request. Just call it user request. Okay. This shouldn't be that color. Surprised why that is in that color. It should be green like that. So let me just make sure that I'm getting it from here. That's strange. Okay, so we're good now. So same thing with when we created this guy, we need to make a new instance of the user response. Just make a new instance of the user response, and then we're going to return that so that this red line will go away. I don't like seeing red lines, so that's why I'm just going to return it as quick as possible first. Sorry, I'm missing the return. Okay, there you go. So the red line is gone, but it's still talking about the async await and all of that. So, but we'll fix that as time goes on. So, like we did the first time, these first three lines are the same. Okay, these first three lines are the same. So I'm going to move them over here, and I'm just going to change the endpoint. Okay. First three lines are the same. Right. The base URL is the same, the header is the same. The endpoint is different. So let's look at the endpoint from this URL. The endpoint is the post one, this creates it's API/users. So I'm gonna do just come here and change API/users, and that will be it. Okay, that's it. Okay. Now this is where things is slightly different, and you will see in a bit why this will be a little different. So right now we have this, we're going to have this as object.